How many names does Sauron have? So in the last episode of the first season of Rings of Power, you hear Halbrand say his famous line, "I have been awake since before the breaking of the first silence. In that time, I have had many names." So exactly how many names has Sauron had? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's start at the beginning. His first given name in his original Maiar form was Mairon, meaning the admirable in Quenya. Then when he fell to Melkor, the Sindar gave him the name of Gorthour, meaning the abominable dread, and in Quenya they gave him the name of Sauron, meaning the abhorred. Now Sauron rejected both of those names, and while in this upcoming season of Rings of Power you'll hear him refer to himself as Sauron, he never referred to himself as Sauron in the books and actually forbade his followers from calling him Sauron and even writing it down. That's why in the movies you hear the orcs and uruks refer to Sauron as the Eye, the Tower, upstairs, the boss, stuff like that. Even Gollum refers to him as the Black Hand or the Black One. In the Second Age, he takes up the guise of Annatar, meaning Lord of Gifts in Quenya. This is the disguise he uses in order to deceive and attempts to corrupt the elves, ultimately creating the first 16 Rings of Power with Celebrimbor, and then after the sack of Eregion, he takes up this disguise again in order to distribute those 16 Rings of Power to the men and the dwarves. Tolkien also gives him 2 additional names during this time in the Unfinished Tales, one of them being Aulendil and the other being Artano. In between the sack of Eregion and when Sauron is taken to Numenor, he's calling himself King of Men, King of Kings, King of the World. And it's those titles that tick our Farazan off, so they sail from Numenor to Middle-earth, snatch up Sauron, take him back. From then until the fall of Numenor, he goes as Zigûr. Zigûr? Meaning wizard in Andunaic. Then when the island of Numenor perishes and his physical form is destroyed, his spirit retreats back to Middle-earth. Going into the Third Age, during the events that we see in The Hobbit, he takes up the disguise of the Necromancer, or the Sorcerer, while he regains his power in Dol Guldur before he goes back to Mordor. Well, before the White Council rats him out and he has to retreat back to Mordor is what I should say. Then there are the little names that he's given throughout the book by characters after he's openly declared himself again, such as the Eye, the Enemy, the Dark One. Boromir and Faramir, and possibly other people in Gondor refer to him as some variation of the Nameless. So altogether, how many names did Sauron have? A lot. But that's just what happens when you're booked and busy and got haters at your heels.